February 13th meeting. We're going to begin with Mr. Brock leading the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by me leading the invocation. Please stand.
Please join me, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in prayer. Father, we are here today to ask for your blessings and guidance in the performance of our duties as elected officials. We pray for strength, love, knowledge, and understanding. Help us to recognize and solve the problems that are presented. Make our solutions fair and just to the best interest of everyone. Help us to overcome our shortcomings and keep us united as a team to work for the betterment of the city and its people. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
We need to amend the agenda tonight. We need to move the executive session to item 20 and add, let me read the actual. Consider deposit of revenue credit in the amount of $1,156,230 into the MEAG flexible operation account short-term portfolio. So that would become item 19, moving the executive session to item 20. Do we have a motion to make that amendment?
Mr. Chairman, also that executive session, I want to add a brief discussion on acquisition of property in addition to litigation.
Okay, so at item 20, adding as well as executive session of purpose of meeting the city attorney to discuss pending potential litigation as well as acquisition or purchase of real estate. We have a motion to approve those changes to the agenda.
I make the motion to approve.
Ms. Ward with a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Truman Tinsley. All in favor, signal by raising your hand.
Aye.
7-0 is Ms. Flowers. For all of you hearers, she is live on telephone. So if you'll hear that voice, that's Ms. Cora Flowers. Welcome, Cora.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into presentation and delegations. We're going to recognize DeMarquavius King, police officer of the police department, as the January 2018 Strongest Link Award recipient. Chief Mike Yates will address. Good evening, Chief Yates.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here. DeMarquavius King, who we call DJ to make things easy for us, came to us at the police department a little over a year ago as part of the workplace learning program. If y'all recall, back I think maybe budget before last, we talked about putting some intern positions in the police department's budget to start trying to identify some young people and develop them into hopefully becoming our employees. Well, at the time we did that, my intention was really to focus on college students, because in law enforcement, you have to be a minimum of 18 years of age before we can send you to the academy and get you certified. Well, to be honest with you, I've been doing the police chief thing or command level in the police department for 25 years, and I have never hired an 18-year-old to be a certified police officer until now. And when DJ came to us, he actually did 2 internship programs, and within the first couple of days of him coming to the police department, I walked through our records department, which is where a lot of our interns work, and I looked over and I saw a desk that already had family pictures on it, pencil sets, all this kind of stuff, and I was like, what's the kid doing? And we should have known at that time that he's different. He was a representative from the ROTC program, and as we got to know him, he just kind of fit in. And I'll be honest with you, I was very skeptical about the notion of 18 and 19-year-olds being certified police officers, but I was like, well, we'll give it a try and we'll see how he does. Well, every time we set a challenge up for him, he exceeded our expectations. And after the second round of internships, we sent him to the police academy. And my expectations were, this is a lot for a young man. You have to have a certain level of maturity and things of this nature in order to survive it. And I'll be honest with you, I said, well, the academy's going to make him or break him, and I really don't anticipate that he's going to make it through there. Well, he surprised me again and excelled while he was at the academy. And the youngest one in the class, I'm sure, with 25 and 30-year-old people typically, some retired from the military, and he was amongst the most mature in the whole business. And I'll tell you this right now, there's no way that I could have done it when I was 18 years old. Mr. Smith would have fired me several times because I just didn't have the maturity that is required. Well, after DJ graduated from the police academy, we brought him back, put him into our field training program, which is a minimum of 12 weeks. Well, as 11 and 12 weeks came around, his field training officers were like, he's ready. I'm like, nah, he's 18, 19 years old. He's going to do some extra time to make sure. Well, he surpassed the other individuals that were in the field training program at the same time, all of which are considerably older than DJ, and he hit the ground running as soon as we let him get out of the field training program. Within the first 2 or 3 weeks of being turned loose by himself, we started getting phone calls about him, and it's not the kind we usually get. It was singing his praises where he and some other officers had taken it upon themselves while they were off duty on the way home to stop and help somebody change their tire in the freezing cold and rain and stuff like that. So based on those things and just and primarily the general attitude that he brings to the workplace, I said if anybody deserves the strongest link, he does. And I think we can all, self-included, learn something from him with his work ethic and attitude when it comes to doing a difficult job and serving the citizens of the city of Griffin. Now, I don't want all this to go to your head, DJ, but he's done a great job, and we're really proud of him, and I'm hoping we can repeat this some more time, multiple times. I could certainly use another dozen just like him. So Ms. Foles is in charge of the Workplace Learning Program. I'd like her to say just a couple of words, if you don't mind.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Leah Foles, and I am the Work-Based Learning Coordinator for Griffin Spalding County Schools. My job is to work with our juniors and seniors who are able to leave school early and go to work, and they earn elective credit for the work they do outside of school, and they're doing it in businesses and organizations around our community. I'm here tonight because of DJ. He is what every teacher dreams that you get to have when you work with high school students, who can be a lot of things, but mature and self-motivated and self-starter are rare, and when you get them, you just absolutely just want to hold on to them, and kind of not like with our own kids. Sometimes you're not quite sure you want to let them go. But DJ walked into my office when he started the program his senior year, and he said, Dr. Foles, I want to be a police officer. I said, okay, DJ, how are we going to make that happen? And I'm here, too, because I want to express my gratitude to the city and to the department heads in the city and the workers of the city for being willing to take on some of our high school students and work with them and help mold them, mentor them, so that they do become our workforce. We've got some phenomenal children and students and young adults who just need an opportunity to begin to learn what it is to really work and to learn the contribution they can make to our community through the real work that goes on here at the city. We have a student that's working at wastewater treatment now. We have a young woman that was at water treatment last year. She's come back. Dr. Keller was just telling me she's recently returned. She started and has got her Operator 3 license. These kids can be ready to go to work and contribute to the city when they're done, and I want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Foles.
Thank you.
I'm going to let DJ say a couple of words if he wants to, so step up here before I give you your award.
I don't talk much. First, I want to thank God, for allowing me this opportunity, and I want to thank the city of Griffin and Chief Yates for, hiring me. I like to do myself proud, but then I see, get awarded in public, so I like that feeling. So I'm gonna keep it up. Good work.
Thank you.
What's our rule? Here's our strongest link plaque for you, and there's a little gift certificate in here for you. And so let's get our obligatory picture made, and we're going to pass the strongest link on to you. You don't have to wear that.
Yes, he does.
Here you go. Come on. Thank you. All right, Chief. Congratulations. All right, you gotta do it again? Yes. There you go.
Officer King, thank you for your service and thank you for all you do for our community. You're an American hero, and we appreciate your sacrifice to the citizens of Griffin and
Thank
Spalding
you.
County. God bless
I
you,
think
sir.
I've hired my replacement, but I want to wait a little while before we do that.
Good luck.
Oh, his family's here? I think so. Is your family here with you tonight? If you'd like to introduce them?
My daughter and my sister, they're here.
Welcome. Thank you for sharing your family member. Next item of business is to consider proclamation declaring Friday, February 16, 2018 as Arbor Day in the city of Griffin. We have a motion to approve the proclamation.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Ward with a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Murray with a second. All in favor, please signal by raising your hand.
Aye.
We've got a 7-0. And Mr. Truman Tinsley is going to read the proclamation. And we've got members of the Environmental Council, Ms. Bonnie Murray, and Mr. Tim Jones here, and anybody else possibly. If you please come forward and let Mr. Tinsley.
This is kind of a long proclamation, so I hope you all bear with me. So, proclamation declaring Arbor Day 2018. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morgan proposed a Nebraska Board of Agriculture that the special day shall be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of precious topsoil, wind, water, reduce heating, cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, provide habitat for wildlife, and reduce stormwater runoff. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify the community wherever they are planted, and are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Griffin has appointed an environmental council to facilitate the planting of trees, and whereas the city has pruned, mulched throughout the city right away, and whereas the city of Griffin has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting ways. In that regard, everyone is invited to an Arbor Day celebration event to be held at 10 o'clock a.m., obviously, on February 16th at New Horizons. New Directions Preparatory Academy at 814 Experiment Street at a time which we will plant 3 red maples on campus. And Holly, I guess you're going to plant those trees. So now, therefore, it be resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the City of Griffin does hereby proclaim Friday, February 16, 2018 to be Arbor Day in the City of Griffin and urges all citizens to support efforts to protect our trees, woodlands, to support our city's urban forest programs, and to plant trees to promote well-being of present and future generations. In witness whereof, I have recently hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Griffin to be affixed to this on this 13th day of February in the year of our Lord, 2018. Signed by Doug Holberg, Chairman, and Kenny Smith, City Manager.
I just want to say that I will be there on the 16th with some of the other members of the Environmental Council, And this will be the second time that I've been involved in planting trees on Arbor Day. Looking forward to it. The kids really get excited about that. And afterwards, there's scheduled a tour of the water facility. So just want to invite everybody out to come and help us celebrate Arbor Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Thank you. I was going to say this during the citizen comments, but since I have the mic, I'm just going to say it now. Thank you for commissioners for voting for me to be on the Environmental Council. I too will be there on Friday planting trees, taking pictures to document it for the Environmental Council, so look for it on Facebook. And I look forward to working with the City of Griffin and doing all I can with the Environmental Council, so thank you so much.
Thank you for serving.
No, you don't have to pay for my professional
Not
services.
her, just me.
I'll bring a shovel.
Y'all can
It's picture time.
picture.
Oh.
Picture. Thank you all for your service.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3, we review the financial reports for December 2017. Chief Financial Officer Marcus Schwab will address. Good evening, young man.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First item, again, we'll review is the cash report, and we have some new board members on the dais, so if you have any questions. No questions? Okay. We'll look at the local option sales tax report, and that one, and for clarification, this is on cash basis reporting. All our other reports are on accrual basis. Any
Do you ever-
questions on this document?
What was the lost check for month of December that came in January? Do you know that by chance? Just,
That is...
it's not on this report, but it would be.
Give me a moment, I can...
No problem.
I can look, I'll have to look for that. I do have access, it's just going to take me a minute
That's
to find the
fine, no problem.
reports from today. Okay.
It's tracking well.
All right, and then we'll review the collections for the 2016 SPLOST. You can see we've now incurred a few more expenses on the blight program. There's roughly 200 available until we satisfy the next debt service, and then we'll have money coming towards the PAYGO projects. Any questions on the interim statements by fund? Again, this is about halfway through the year, so we have roughly 50% of the revenue and 50% of the expenditures recognized.
Any questions?
And then the last item is the popular status report. That one, you can see we're tracking pretty much flat, as Mr. Morrow would say, boring on the numbers. So there's still 6 months left in the year to create some hiccups and excitement, if you will.
Thank you very much, Marcus.
Okay,
Have a good
thank
day.
you.
Next item of business is citizen comments. This time, chairperson opens the floor to comments from the audience. Comments should relate to a specific agenda item not listed on the agenda for a public hearing or to a concern within the jurisdiction of the city. Commission meetings serve the purpose of conducting city business and are not a forum for the unlimited expression of opinion. The chairperson reserves the rights to limit comments to matters germane to city business and may refer speakers to the city manager or other staff for resolution. With that being said, is there anybody on my left side that would like to come before the board? Anybody on my left? Please come forward. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, you guys. My name is Tariq Lyons. Address 824 Ellis Street in Griffin, Georgia, 30223.
Welcome back, sir.
Yes, thank you. Last time I came up here, I asked, was there going to be any type of initiative to not to decriminalize marijuana, seeing that we now have products in the Griffin stores that are from cannabinoids, CBD, which is a marijuana as well as comes from cannabis. So I was calling, coming back to see what was your guys' initiative to starting, not legalizing because that's a state and federal matter, but decriminalize it as other cities and states are starting to do.
So your question is the decriminalization of certain marijuana products?
The
Or-
decriminalization of marijuana.
Okay.
Not the legality of it, not saying it should be legal in Griffin because that's a state and federal matter, which the trend is, going that way if you pay attention to politics, but the decriminalization where people aren't being locked up and labeled with felonies, then getting out, can't gain employment because of a felony, which if they paid their debt, they shouldn't be labeled that way, but it harms, job growth. It hurts, it harms a person's ability to obtain a job. And we now know that, cannabis is being used in medical products that helps people with anxiety, depression, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm coming back to see, is there an initiative to decriminalize marijuana in Griffin, seeing that the products are already being sold in the city of Griffin? And are you guys going to take an initiative to
Mr. Lyons,
decriminalize
we
it?
appreciate you coming tonight, and before you leave, if you will get with Chief Yates and tell him where these products are being sold and what they are, I think he'd be quite interested to know.
It's a cannabinoid. It's called CBD. You can find them in most of the corner stores around in this area, not even a mile away.
Let the chief know before you leave tonight.
All right.
Okay, I'll do that.
There's
Who's the
no-
chief?
He's right
That's the
there,
chief.
leaning on the post over there.
Okay, and
I don't see that as an initiative we're taking. We usually generally follow.
not that you are taking it right now. Like, is it an initiative that you would like to take on because it is a problem?
It's not an initiative that I personally, but there may be another board member that has that desire, but,
Well, we have to follow state law. We can't
So
be
it's a state
outside
law.
the state laws.
It's not against the law to decriminalize a substance.
okay. I appreciate you being here, sir. We can talk later. Okay.
So there's no initiative.
This is not a time to debate. This is time for you to bring your concerns.
There is no initiative.
It is a great concern. Like,
I know it's a concern, but this isn't the forum to
do you guys
discuss.
do you guys
So
have
at a later
town
time,
hall?
we can sit down and we can talk about it.
Okay, I'll accept. Do you guys have town halls where you hear citizens' complaints, or
We have a city
thoughts?
commission meeting, but this point is where citizens can bring issues of concern. But if it needs further discussion, then we can.
So that's what I'm
Individually,
asking.
you can talk with one of us or with the staff or the police chief.
Is there any type of forum where citizens like something like this, not this, but a forum such as this where you could hear citizens' complaints, or
We're here
I-
citizens' complaints, but you don't have a complaint. You have an initiative that you want to bring before us.
you guys don't take on initiatives?
If we feel it's worthy, but we have different groups and committees that work on things. So if you don't mind, maybe we can talk later after the meeting or at a future
Sure.
date. Okay?
So you're
There's nothing I can-
Holberg, so I'll talk to you later. Okay.
Okay. that'd be
All right.
fine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. Is there anybody else on my left that'd like to come before the board? Anybody on my right side would like to come before the board at this time? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving to the consent agenda, I believe we need to pull item 4 out and then possibly take 5 through 11. So do we have a motion to consider the minutes of the January 23rd, 2018 Board of Commissioners Goals Workshop and regular, and we actually need to take those individually because Ms. Flowers was at the workshop. So if we can start with just the minutes to the workshop. Do we have a motion to approve the workshop
Make a motion
minutes?
to approve the minutes at the workshop, sir.
Mr. Brock made a motion. Do we have a second? Ms. Murray with a second. Any corrections or changes? All in favor, signal by saying aye. Ms. Flowers? Ms. Flowers?
Aye. Did you hear me?
Yep, gotcha. 7-0. Moving back to the regular meeting minutes of January 23rd, do we have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Ms. Ward with a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Murray with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand or saying.
I'm abstaining.
And one abstain. So we have a 6-0-1 vote. Now at this time, we're going to take consent agenda items 5 through 11 if there are no objections. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda item 5 through 11.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Ward with a motion. We have a second. Ms. Murray with a second. Any discussion? All in favor of items 5 through 11, signal by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
We have a 7-0 on the consent agenda 5 through 11. Moving to item 12. Consider resolution for the 2018 CDBG Community Development Block Grant for water and sewer improvements for the city's fiscal year 2018 CDBG target area, Meriwether Phase 3, and authorize the chairman to execute pertinent documentation.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. McCord, second by Ms. Ward.
Have a seat.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, please signal by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
7-0. Move to item 13, consider on first reading an ordinance amending the Code of Griffin, Georgia at Chapter 22, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 2, Construction Standards, Section 22-23, State Minimum Construction Codes to recognize the mandatory state minimum construction codes effective January 1, 18, and enacted by the Board of Georgia Department of Community Affairs.
Motion approved.
Mr. Ward with the motion, Mr. McCord with the second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, signal by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
7-0. Item 14, approve and authorize the City of Griffin chairperson to sign application for a GFA loan for Shoal Creek wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $8 million for the Water and Wastewater Department.
So moved.
Mr. McCord with a motion, second by Ms. Ward. Any questions or comments? All in favor, signal by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
7-0. Item 15 is consider approval to amend contract with PF Moon for the Cabin Creek wastewater treatment plant construction in the amount of $700,000 for the Water and Wastewater Department of the Public Works and Utilities Department.
Motion approved.
Ms. Ward with a motion, second by Ms. Murray. Any questions or comments? All in favor, signal by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
7-0. Item 16 is a lift from the table to appoint to Main Street Program one member being a business or property owner for a 3-year term to expire 12/31/20 to succeed Marcus Allen, whose term expired 12/31/17.
Make a motion to lift from the table.
We have a motion for Mr. McCord to lift from the table. Do we have a second? Ms. Ward was the second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
7-0.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Marcus Allen.
We have a motion for Mr. Marcus Allen. Do we
Make a
have,
motion to close nominations.
is there any other nominations?
I had a nomination for Kay Landon.
We have a nomination for Kay Lanham.
Make a motion to close nominations.
We have a motion to close nomination by Ms. Ward.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. McCord. Okay, we're going to take it in order of appointment. All in favor of Mr. Marcus, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and all for Mrs. Landon, please raise your hand or say aye. Vote is 4-3 for Mr. Mr. Allen.
Okay.
And the votes are McCord, Holberg, Ward, and Flowers for Mr. Allen. Item 17, consider approval to revise city administrative staff organization chart. City Manager Kenny Smith will address.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion for Mr. McCord. Do we
Motion
have a
second.
second by Ms. Ward?
Can I make a motion to table for further discussion?
At this point, we've got a motion and a second. If we'd like to have some discussion, we can do that at this point.
Just walking in on this job, I mean, I don't take reorganizations very minusculely at all, and I've only seen, can you not hear me there? Can you hear me now? I've only seen the reorganization once, and due to questions from citizens and the fallout of any decision that we make, I need to be very thorough. I need to understand. I would like to be on board with everyone, and I just feel that more communication is warranted for me to fully see this picture.
Are there any other comments at this point in time?
Yes, sir. I agree with Holly. I think it probably needs more discussion, just clarification, and make sure the public understands what we will accomplish by making the move. We're not spending any more money than we're spending it today. But I'm not too sure that we have communicated that. And I've had enough telephone calls to know that we need to maybe re-verify what we talked about and put it in a form that the citizens of Griffin can understand.
This reorganization was something that basically, during Mr. Smith's evaluation, that the Board of Commissioners instructed him to do. And actually, it's a personnel matter, and we don't have a decision in the hiring and firing or reorganization. The only thing we can do is to vote whether or not to accept it, to pass it, but it's basically what we instructed him to do. So,
And you're correct, under the charter, your only employee is the city manager.
And the city attorney and the city
Well,
solicitor.
those are officers that are appointed, but the only
City
employee
court
as
judge.
such is the city manager.
I don't think that's the question, though. I think the question is clarification. And without doing that, I think we could have some real stumbles in the road with what we want to do.
the only thing we're doing is voting as to whether or not to accept the reorganization. We don't have a choice in how he hire and fire.
Oh, no, I would like more or further discussion before, I feel like further discussion could mean me voting one way or the other. And if I'm to vote tonight, if I'm to vote on as is, I will abstain.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any particular questions that anybody has. I mean, we've discussed it a couple of times, but I would be glad if somebody has specific questions I can answer tonight, I'll be glad to do that.
I think the direction that our board, for clarification on my part, is that the main position we're looking at is in terms of giving Mr. Smith assistance in regards to the day-to-day management of the city commission and or of the staff. And there is no other cost except possibly we change some of the responsibilities of the current city solicitor and maybe have to bring assistance into that area. But our Board of Commissioners over the last several years has been diligent in regards to our focus on substandard housing, code enforcement, and cleaning up this community. And the cost that we were spending on outside attorney work was, we saw that it would be better and more streamlined if we brought on board legal staff to deal directly with those issues and those problems. And in the long run, I think we have been more aggressive and been more accountable in terms of the taxpayers' dollars in terms of targeting substandard housing and code enforcement issues and things. And what this does is gives Mr. Smith someone that he can depend on in terms of his reorganization, that if he's not available, that department directors can answer. So personally, this is the direction that we had directed our staff to move forward, or our city manager to consider. He brought a recommendation, it's been discussed, and I feel very strongly that whether you name it a chief of staff or whether you name it an assistant, in the grand scheme of things, whatever you name that person, the intention is there that this person is to, the way it's being restructured is to assist him in giving support to the team and for the goal of running the Griffin more efficiently and effectively. So with that being said, I think it's the right move to do it now. Whether we do it now or later, my decision won't change in terms of the support. So any other comments or questions? So with that being said, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All against, like sign. We have a 5-2 vote with Ms. Murray and Mr. Brock voting against. Moving to item 18, consider denial of a purported anti-litem notice from attorney Laquita S. Pearson on behalf of her client Larry Crawford for personal injuries allegedly received in a motor vehicle collision with a Griffin PD officer on December 27, 2017 at approximately 6:30 p.m. on North Expressway. Pleasure of the board.
What was the motion?
Motion to deny.
To deny.
Ms. Ward has made a motion to deny. Do we have a second? Ms. Murray with a second. Any discussion? All in favor signal by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
All against, like sign. 6-1 with Mr. McCord voting against. Moving to item 19 is consider the deposit of a revenue credit in the amount of $1,156,230 in the MEAG Flexible operating account, short-term portfolio. Electric Department, Dan Thompson will address if needed.
Make a motion if we approve.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. McCord, a second from Ms. Ward. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, we may want to discuss that just for a second.
Okay. Is there a point?
Yeah, Mr. Thompson can just explain to you
Okay.
very quickly what has transpired the last few days, and we added it to the agenda because MEAG wanted an answer by the 15th, but we just got this 2 days ago, so.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
But there are a couple of options there that we probably need to make you aware of quickly.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for amending our agenda to get this on here, and it is a time-sensitive document, and we do appreciate it. As the narrative states, our wholesale power supplier had an opportunity this past January to sell some excess natural gas on the market, resulting in about $14.5 million in profit through the combined cycle participants, and Griffin being one of them. And our share of that credit was $1.1 million. Mr. Smith and myself and our staff looked at some different options to what we would think to be the best thing to do with that. We looked at reducing our power cost adjustment since July is our peak power month, if you will. We looked at that. That's option number 2 for reducing that cost for 1 month. And we also looked at reducing our power cost adjustment over a 12-month period, and that was option number 3. But again, keep in mind, we all know what our Vogel debt expenses are currently and coming up in the very near future. And all of our indicators in our discussions went back to we recommend putting it in our short-term portfolio to address that upcoming debt. And if there's anything I can help answer for you, I'd be more than happy to do so.
If we put it in the short-term debt, we still have access as we go into this spring, as we look at rates and where things are at.
Yes, sir, that is.
Possibly use it as a credit back to offset the costs.
That certainly is a discussion point and an option, yes, sir.
So going into the budget period, we can look at that. So we're not putting it away where we can't get it.
You are correct, sir.
Okay.
If you put it in short term, you can still get it out, but we're a little skeptical of that until we have more information about where Vogel is going to land.
Right.
As you know, that's still up in the air and still volatile, so we probably won't know that for a couple of years. Also, at 4:18 this afternoon, I got a notice that our SEPA cost for January just more than doubled, from 5 cents a kilowatt hour to almost 13. So
That had a lot of weather factors and drought condition
energy
factors,
market,
so.
with all these different weather conditions going on with floods and fires and heat and cold, everything is so volatile right now. We just thought sticking it in short term until we have a better idea of where we're going is the best option.
Okay. And that's what we voted, that's what the motion.
That's what the
second.
motion is,
Okay.
yes, sir. I just wanted you to
Okay,
know, since it
understand.
is an unexpected
Windfall.
revenue enhancement, I just wanted you to know that there are different options out there.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? With that being said, we've got a motion to second by Mr. McCord, seconded by Ms. Ward. All in favor, please signal by raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye, 7-0.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dan, appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
You too.
All right, so before we go into our closed session, we go into the city manager and commissioner comments.
Chairman Holbert?
Yes, ma'am.
I need to leave.
Okay.
I need to leave the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your service.
Y'all have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Our proposed charter amendment for the new charter and the mayor's position was filed in the House by Representative Knight on yesterday. So hopefully we'll see some movement on that. We've kind of been tracking the local information that's been going in the legislature, and I've been texting him almost every day wanting to know where it was. So he told me that he dropped it in yesterday. The move-in is complete at the new fire station, so I invite you to stop by. They are now operational with all the trucks there. We're cleaning out the old building, and the construction crews have moved back into what will be the training room and that separate block building back there, so we hope to have it complete within about 30 days. So we're wrapping up that whole complex probably within the next 30 days and hope to have an open house in March. Historic City Hall, which is also a SPLOST project, we met with those contractors and design engineers today. They're finishing up the design within the next couple of weeks, and I know this project seems like it's gone on forever, but as you know, we had some budget issues to begin with, and we had to go back and do some value engineering several times to try to get a budget that we could live with. So they're finishing up the final design. Hope to have a notice to proceed. They'll put the bids out in a couple of weeks. Hope to have a notice to proceed in April. And we are planning on that building being complete by the end of this calendar year. You heard in the proclamation about Arbor Day, the tree planting, Experiment Street, 10 o'clock Friday. Also Friday, there's an urban renewal forum
10 to 12.
put on by the Chamber of Commerce at the Welcome Center. That starts Friday at 9:30. Myself, Mr. Wilson from Spalding County, and Brian Upson are three of the people on the panel that I'm aware of. Also, go ahead and mark your calendar for March the 2nd at 2 o'clock. That'll be the grand opening of the Iris at Park Point, the senior development over at Meriwether Street by the Housing Authority, and that's exciting. And I think we had a great archway retreat last week. Enjoyed the discussion, had some good information come out of that, and look forward to working on those goals. That completes my report.
Mr. Whalen?
I have nothing.
Mr. McCord?
Like everyone else in Griffin, we are mourning the passing of Mr. Bill Hastings, who's one of Griffin's number one, not one of, but is the number one Griffin football, Griffin Spalding athletic fan here in our community. And no matter where you go in this state, if people have been to Griffin, watched Griffin Spalding, even Griffin Christian athletics, they have seen Bill Hastings. So hopefully we can do something nice for his family. I think he has a surviving sister who is still around. I got a chance to meet her a couple of years ago. We were out with Griffin High doing something at the nursing home. So we're definitely going to miss Bill, and he just truly be missed. So that's all I have.
Ms. Murray?
I apologize for being like a minute late. I was on my way in and I found out that my caregiver and next door neighbor who pretty much raised me just unexpectedly had a stroke and is on life support now in Emory. And she's only 62 years old. Her husband is one of the head butchers here at our food depot here in town. And so many might know them. So, it's just happened. So. But anyway, on a lighter note, not that everyone's not doing a great job out there, but Dr. Keller, there were quite a few items on the agenda that involved funds for the water department. It takes great insight to come to us for these projects, and I appreciate your just staying on the project and your leadership and your knowledge and these projects. I mean, these things should have been done back in the day, I guess. So thank you for realizing the urgency to these things, and no doubt that all these costs and everything that you're going through, your day-to-day doesn't stop, but you also have to be cued into all of these projects, and one day we'll have these issues in the past and we won't have to think about it. And thank you for all that you do, each and every one of you, and all the Plant Vogel things, and Dan Thompson, just everyone. And Jennifer, congratulations on joining our electric department. Be glad to have you. Phil Francis, of course. I'm sorry. I always think you're doing a good job, but each and every one of you, thank you. And Jack, and I see everyone out there. Fire department, thank you. Jessica, everyone, thank you. Chief.
All right. Mr. Brock?
She said it all.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Mr. Tinsley?
I'd just like to mirror the words that Rodney had to say about Bill. I'll miss him at the Griffin High School football games as a season ticket holder since 1988 when I moved to Griffin. I'll miss seeing Bill out there. He's a good guy. He was a good guy. And I think also, Kenny, he was a Georgia Tech fan.
He was.
One of the few, yeah. That's all.
Wonderful. Ms. Ward?
I don't have anything.
Couple things, Archery Retreat, thank you all for participating. We missed you, Mr. Brock. I hope you're feeling better.
Better.
But it was a great opportunity for each organization to come together and just kind of hammer out issues, and I think we continue to grow as a community for the better. Downtown Council Dinner on the Bridge is coming up April 28th. It's the same week as Cities Week, so there'll be 300 tickets sold, so this is your notice. If you want a ticket, it'll be going on Eventbrite soon, so Dinner on the Bridge is going to be April 28th. June Jam is coming up June 2nd, and so that's being prepared. And my little Bill Hastings story, when I grew up on Ivy Road, Bill lived up on Pine Ridge, and it wasn't unusual. The first time he just like walked into my house, and it was just kind of a surprise, and it was like, what's that? Mom was like, oh, that's just Bill Hastings, don't worry. But he knew the phone number, 227-1409, whenever you looked at it, and he called. We used to shoot pool at Pete's Pool Rooms all the time. He loved to play snooker, and for those of you who play pool at Pete's, loser pays. Well, Bill just knew how just to get enough points to or hook someone where he wouldn't pay. He did pay his share, but most of the time he didn't. And his nickname for me is because a lot of times I was fouling, losing my 7 points, and he'd say, "Dug in the hole, dug in the hole." So that was my nickname to Bill down the street, was Dug in the Hole, and he will be truly missed.